In 1989, a child was born to a Puerto Rican immigrant and a working-class New Yorker. They would attend public schools and take a variety of minimum wage jobs while becoming increasingly involved in politics as they saw the way that they grew up compared to the way the wealthy grew up and the way that natural-born citizens grew up. In January of 2019, they became the youngest woman to ever be sworn into U.S. Congress. This woman is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Better known as AOC, she is part of a growing movement of progressives, especially progressives from underserved backgrounds who are ready to put normal citizens in places of power. According to a November 2019 edition of Mother Jones, there was a piece by Voght outlining the goals of AOC and the progressives who support her. They advocate for Medicare for All, which is a system covering the cost of essential medical care, which is similar to Canadian Medicare or the UK's NHS. They also tend to support the Green New Deal, which is a series of policies addressing climate change and pollution with the intent of also increasing well-paying jobs. They also tend to advocate for race, gender, and LGBTQ+ equity and rights. AOC is a member of the Squad, a harshly judged group of congresswomen of color, specifically very progressive congresswomen of color. AOC handles judgmental remarks with grace and wit. During an interview with journalist Alex Morris for the Rolling Stone in March of 2019, Ocasio-Cortez spoke of a recent encounter with sexism involving a nude photo doctored to look like her. She said, quote, "When the president says that he has sexually assaulted women, they just shrug their shoulders. But when there's a rumor that a woman may have had the audacity to take a photo of herself, they're up in arms," end quote. Politicians have critiqued the Squad ever since they came to be, especially AOC, for her extremely radical policy opinions. Senator Lindsey Graham once called them a bunch of communists, and former President Trump referred to them as the 4 horsewomen of the apocalypse. AOC, though, is not the only congresswoman who supports this so-called radical policy. When asked about her opinion on representatives with great ethics who tend to vote against ethical policies, AOC replied, quote, "I am tired of people saying I'm going to vote the same way as bigots, but I don't share the ideology of bigots. Well, you share the action and agenda of bigots. We need to hold that accountable," end quote. Despite what critics might tell you, most policy supported by AOC is not radical even for the U.S. In the fall edition of the Indiana Law Journal, Edward J. McCaffery wrote in an article titled "The Death of the Income Tax, or the Rise of America's Universal Wage Tax." Quote, "Just weeks into her tenure as America's youngest member of Congress, she floated the idea of a 60 or 70% top marginal tax rate on incomes over $10 million, end quote. This would be a substantial tax on any income above $10 million. Substantial income tax on the ultra-rich is commonplace in most wealthy countries of the West. Even in the U.S., she is not the only congressperson who supports this tax. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is one of the many individuals paving a path for everyday citizens to put progressive beliefs into practice. You too can be part of the change. Despite AOC's humble beginnings, she graduated from a great university and was elected to represent her hometown in Congress. She is making a great example that you don't have to be wealthy or white to influence politics. This is your country too. Thank you.